Hi, ladies. I hope everyone out there is having a fantastic day today. It is sunshiny here in California, of course, because like it's required, right? But it's a beautiful day, and I'm feeling sunshiny myself. I'm wearing my yellow, so I hope you are all having a wonderful, wonderful day. Today, we're going to be talking about sleep, how to get some, how to get more of it, how to get better quality sleep. Um, so I know for a lot of women, especially when you start to get into your 40s and 50s, sleep can all of a sudden become elusive. And it's like, why? I used to sleep like a baby. What happened? Well, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about why it's a good idea to get sleep, because in our society these days, it's like, oh, I can get by on 4 hours of sleep, or I can get by on 6 hours of sleep. And everyone thinks that it's some kind of badge of honor to not have a good night's sleep. Well, I'm here to tell you it is exactly the opposite. Having a good night's sleep is super, super important for your health. And I am going to delve into some of the science behind that. But before I do that, there are a couple quotes that I want to read to you. There's if you don't know her, there's a lady named Arianna Huffington who wrote a book called Thrive. And in that book, she described her challenges with getting a good night's sleep and the results from her not getting a good night's sleep. She actually had a really drastic accident because she wasn't sleeping enough chronically. What's the word? Chronic unsleepiness. Chronic. She didn't have insomnia. It's just that she was working so hard, she just didn't sleep much. And when that goes on for long periods of time, of course, as you probably know, that impairs all of our cognitive abilities. But in the book, she talks about her journey with learning to prioritize her sleep. So there are a couple of quotes that I picked up from her. One is, and this one's incredible. Right now, we take better care of our smartphones than we take care of ourselves. I bet everyone here knows how much battery remains in their phones right now. Well, first of all, yes, our phones actually have a counter that tells us how much battery is in them, but it's so true. Like we make sure that our phones are turned off at night. We make sure that we plug them in. But when it comes to our own bodies needing to recharge, oftentimes we just push, push, push until it gets to the breaking point, right? We let our batteries run down. Another thing she says is becoming perpetually tired has become the new normal. Which is true. We're all tired. That's why Starbucks is so popular, right? We're all so tired. We need coffee all times a day. We need coffee in the morning. We need coffee at 11. We need coffee after lunch. We need coffee in the evening. It's like we're constantly having this caffeine, the cycle of being caffeinated to keep ourselves awake. I actually have a friend who I'm not even sure how many cups of coffee she would drink in the day, but I would ask her, aren't you tired? Because she wouldn't sleep. And she'd say, no, I'm not tired. And it was because she was drinking so much coffee to offset being tired. It wasn't that her body wasn't tired. It's just that she didn't notice it because she was so highly caffeinated. So we like to mask our tiredness with this beautiful drug we call caffeine. Not that I'm against caffeine. I love me a good cup of coffee in the morning. I guess more for the flavor or the habit of it. I also love tea, but I'm getting up on a tangent. Not that the coffee is bad, but I will get into coffee. I'm definitely going to be talking about caffeine in general. And the last quote that I'm going to mention from Arianna Huffington is that it's very hard to be resilient when we're run down. And that has a lot to do with our body's ability to keep up with all the things that we want it to keep up with, right? Our normal detoxification systems, our ability to work out, our ability to be, patient with our children, like all the things that we want our body to just be able to do, that resiliency, that ability to bounce back, that ability to just, if you trip on something, to be able to catch yourself type of thing. Our body is going to be less resilient if we don't have the sleep resources, if our body hasn't regrouped during the day in order to do that. So when it comes to sleep, there are so many good reasons for getting a good night's sleep, okay? And there's so much science behind this, okay? I am not making this up. I fully researched this. As a matter of fact, in my group program, there is a whole module about self-care in which sleep plays a huge part of the module. So I'm just going to look at my notes as I do, because maybe I should get a teleprompter. What do you guys think? Let me know. But okay, first of all, but what I said earlier about some people think they can get 4 hours of sleep a night or 6 hours of sleep a night. There are very few people in the world who can survive, who can maintain a healthy lifestyle, whose bodies are genetically able to function properly on fewer than, say, 7 or 8 hours of sleep per night. Okay. I had a boss once who said, I can get by on 6 hours of sleep, no problem. Unless he is one of the like 2%, actually it's probably not even that high. There's like some, I don't know the actual statistics, but there's a very, 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 very small percentage of people who can get by on fewer than 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. So unless he was in that camp, he was probably just kidding himself, right? And some of the people who, like I said, a lot of people caffeinate, and then to fall asleep, they will medicate with things like alcohol. So I'm going to talk about how to get a good night's sleep, and alcohol is not part of that topic, because the problem with alcohol is it'll help you fall asleep, but then you tend to wake up in the middle of the night, which, doesn't really help. So in terms of the benefits of a good night's sleep, okay, this one's probably my favorite. When you get a good night's sleep, you eat fewer calories, right? So for many of us women, we're always trying to fit into our cute little outfits, right? And so even though I talk about eating real food as the main source of, I don't know, how do I put it, of keeping your weight at a certain level, or keeping just your body at a healthy level, getting a good night's sleep means that you're not reaching for the junk food, right? Because when we get less sleep, we tend to mindlessly eat. And two, we tend to pick fatter food, like fatty foods that are not good for us, things that are full of, the bad fat, quote unquote bad fats. And I talked about fat in earlier videos. If you want to hear more about fat, go back to the fat. But when we don't get enough sleep, we just tend to reach for like the chips and the sodas, and sometimes it's the candy. I know that me personally, when I was in the corporate world, I always had not only did I have a candy jar for my employees, I had a candy drawer. I had a full drawer. I remember at one point, I had a friend, when we were both supervisors, she would come into my office, and I had this big thing. I don't know if they still have them, but Trader Joe's had these peanut butter cups, these like little mini peanut butter cups, like Reese's butter cups, but they were Trader Joe's brand. And we could go through those, man. We could go through, because it was like a big, you can't see my hands. It was like a big container like that, of these things. And man, we could go through those so fast. And we were not getting, for sure, I can tell you, I was not getting a lot of sleep, because I was in my early 20s, and it was like, who needs sleep? Right? I'd stay up late watching some show, and then I'd have to get up early to be at work at 7:30, whatever it was, which is not a nice time to be at work. I'm just saying. Some people like to get up, go to work early and come home early. I don't. But anyway, tangent again. So when you don't get enough sleep, you tend to eat more calories, and you tend to eat things that are not going to help you sustain energy, right? So like the candy, it's a sugar high and a crashing low. And at which point you then need the caffeine, right? So eating fewer calories if you get a good night's sleep. So yay for that. If you want to reduce your calorie intake, get a good night's sleep, and it's like a win-win. Okay, this one's pretty obvious, but when you have a better night's sleep, you have improved concentration and productivity. How many of you feel like your brain works better when you get a good night's sleep? Anyone? Mine definitely does. But studies after studies have shown that people who get a good night's sleep tend to just be more on it, right? I'm doing the little snapping thing, like, they just tend to be more on it. Their brain works faster. The synapses are all firing, and everything's working right. And your body's like, yeah, let's do this. I can work. I can make these calculations over here, and I can think about something else over here. And your brain is in excellent condition to make great choices when you get a good night's sleep. Okay, what else? Improved immune function. Okay, I touched on this a little bit earlier with that quote. Remember that quote said, it's very hard to be resilient when we're run down. This is so true, because your body's immune system, in order for it to fully function, it has to be able to reset and detox throughout the evening. Like, it needs that downtime when it's not competing for resources with your cognitive brain, right? So it's actually, it needs that extra time to get everything out of your system, all the to detoxify your system, so that it gets all the junk from the day out, whether it was your food intake, or whether it was just pollution, or just the whatever's in your water. Like, it's detoxifying your body, it's moving things out, it's working hard to help you stay healthy. But if you don't give it that time, it's not going to be able to keep up, and then your immune system suffers, right? So, and the same thing, like, how when you start to feel sick, if you ever start to like feel like you're getting a cold or something, like the first thing you want to do is go to bed early, right? That's your body's way of telling you, I need time to fix this. I need sleeping time, downtime to fix this. So your body naturally tells you that you need a good night's sleep in order to maintain a healthy body. So that's that one. Here are my notes. Improve strength. This one's interesting because I didn't know this statistic, but for older women, basically, if you get a good night's sleep, the older women show, and I'm using women because that's my target audience here, you ladies. As we get older, we will have improved strength and flexibility, and our bones and muscles will just work better if we've had a good night's sleep over the course of our lives because our body has been able to maintain those functions. But I will say that if you've ever had to go to a workout when you're tired, it is just harder to do whatever, like the push-ups or the crunches or whatever you're trying to do. It is just harder to do those if you're tired, right? I mean, I know a lot of people will take like an energy drink or even coffee or a caffeinated soda before they work out just to give them that little oomph, to give them that extra bit of energy to be able to make it through the workout. Because if you're tired, you're just not going to work out as well. So those are the benefits of sleep. Now, the opposite of that is what happens if you don't get enough sleep. Obviously, it's going to be the opposite of all those things I just said. But in addition to that, so people who don't get enough sleep have a higher likelihood of becoming obese. The actual quote I have here is, short sleep duration is one of the strongest risk factors for obesity. Now, we kind of touched on that a little bit earlier with the mindless snacking, but there is a serious correlation between not getting enough sleep and consistently eating foods that are not good for you, that are going to cause you to gain a lot of weight. So as an example, if you're tired all the time, are you really going to want to come home and make a homemade meal? Like, do you really have the energy to put together a whole meal if you're just exhausted? No, you're more likely to go through the drive-thru, pick up Taco Bell, McDonald's, whatever. Maybe Chipotle, stepping it up to Chipotle. But in any case, you're less likely to make a homemade meal, which tends to be healthier, tend to have fewer of the quote-unquote bad fats. Again, I did a video on fats if you want to hear more about that. But you're just less likely to do that because you're exhausted. Are you really going to take the time to make yourself a lunch, pack yourself a lunch in the morning? No, you're going to go out to eat because, again, you don't have the mental capacity. Your brain's tired. It's really, and your body's tired. You just plain don't have the energy to do it. So I totally believe it. Although it's not a belief, it's fact. Hashtag science. Heart disease and stroke. So there are studies linking both stress and sleep deprivation to increasing your risk of heart disease and stroke. Now, we probably all would have figured out the stress thing, right? But when it comes to heart disease and stroke, who knew that getting a good night's sleep could actually help you reduce the risks of those things? I didn't. I'm going to go to sleep now. See ya. I don't want to get heart disease and stroke. But that goes back to the immunity thing we talked about earlier, right? Your body can flush out the stuff it doesn't need and can spend its time cleaning things up during those 8 hours or so of sleep. Now, only you will know how much sleep you need, and you will know how much sleep you need by how you wake up. Like, if you can go to bed every night and not wake up to an alarm, just wake up naturally at the same time every day, you're good. You've gotten enough sleep. And I'm not talking about waking up at 4 a.m. if you went to bed at 11. That's another issue that we'll talk about that later. But I'm talking about if you can consistently get a good night's sleep, feel great all day, not be tired throughout the day, not need caffeine, then you know that you've gotten a good night's sleep. Okay. Type 2 diabetes. This goes along with the obesity part, but basically lack of sleep affects your blood sugar and reduces insulin sensitivity. So, get a good night's sleep. It's just so good for you in so many ways. Increased inflammation. So for any of you dealing with autoimmune, arthritis, leaky gut, Hashimoto's, like any of the there's so many autoimmune disorders, and I talked about them, I think, in the dairy live that I did last week, maybe 2 weeks ago. I do a lot of these lives, huh? Increased inflammation. Sleep loss is known to activate undesirable markers of inflammation and cell damage. And this is especially true for any gut issues. So if you have IBS or Crohn's, those types of things, The inflammation can get really bad, and not sleeping can make it worse. So get some sleep. And then your ability to function. Now, we have all heard those statistics about the train driver who fell asleep, or God forbid, the pilot who fell asleep, and like there's a huge accident, right? And here's the thing: why are we not getting enough sleep? We should all be getting enough sleep, but especially if I shouldn't say especially, we should all be getting enough sleep, right? Now, if you have other people's lives in your hands, I sure hope you'd prioritize sleep. I actually have a brother-in-law who is a pilot, and he visited us recently, and he didn't stay for dinner because he's like, I need to get some sleep before the flight because it was an evening flight, which is smart, right? He knew that in order to be able to function cognitively and to be able to make the best choices, that he needed his body to have that extra bit of rest. Why is it every time I talk, my nose itches? Okay. So there's this, I found this quote on the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute site. It says that after several nights of losing sleep, even a loss of just 1 to 2 hours per night, your ability to function suffers as if you haven't slept all day for a day or two. Lack of sleep may also lead to microsleep, brief moments of sleep that occur when you're normally awake. So it's kind of like when have you ever been driving and like not been able to remember the actual drive? Like there's just parts of the drive you don't remember. That could be that you had these moments of microsleep where your brain literally just turned off for a little bit. And thank God we have a lot of straight roads in America, and it's not like living in Europe where you're constantly having to go on roundabouts and that kind of thing. I'm so sorry that my nose itches. Must be from talking too much. But those periods of microsleep can be really dangerous, right? Especially when we're driving or doing something that requires our full attention. So, all right, quality. Here's the other thing. So many of us ladies start to have this point. We get to a point in our lives where our body's just like, yeah, I don't think you're going to sleep through the night anymore, which totally sucks. And I get it because I was in this place, and what happened to me, and I didn't realize it, of course, was that I had all these toxins built up in my body. Now, we have talked about toxins several times here, right? All the different toxins we can be exposed to, whether it's pollution in the air, whether it's toxins in the water, whether it's from the makeup products or bath products that we use, to the things to the foods that we put in our bodies. There are so many different ways that we can be absorbing toxins in our modern times, but obviously, the more we can do to get rid of the toxins, so getting a good sweaty workout is great. Here's another one, doing your meditation. We have talked about stress, right? And how stress is one of the worst toxins because it creates so many physiological issues in our body that our body then has to work double time to try to undo. Stress is a huge toxin. So getting rid of the toxins in our body really helps you get a good night's sleep. So that's why I really advocate for meditation, because meditation helps calm our brains and calm our bodies. See, even taking deep breaths helps calm us. It really does. It activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which actually tricks our brain into thinking we're not stressed, because the stress component is coming from the sympathetic nervous system. So if we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the opposite one, it actually de-stresses us. So the fact that we have so many toxins in our environment means that we have to be extra diligent within our bodies. So like I said, doing a good workout where you're working up a sweat, but also putting things in our body that don't have toxins, and those, making sure that everything you eat is organic, making sure that the meats, if you eat meats, are grass-fed, pasture-raised, grass-finished. Like eggs too need to be like the chickens need to be running around eating worms instead of a bunch of junk. Making sure that your foods don't have antibiotics in them, and hormones. You don't need extra hormones. The ones your body produces are the ones that you need, not all the ones from eating certain meats. So the thing is, the reason a lot of us can't sleep is because our body is so overwhelmed and overloaded with these toxins. It's like trying to work all this stuff out, and it's like, we can't do it. And your body is overwhelmed, and the whole system is overwhelmed, which is why you can't sleep. So in my case, I had leaky gut, which was caused from years and years and years of chronic stress. during those years of chronic stress, somehow, probably because I was in my early 30s, I was still able to sleep. Granted, I had the migraines and all the other stories that you've heard me tell before, which is another thing. We also tend to ignore a lot of the symptoms in our bodies. Our bodies are trying to tell us something, so let's try not to ignore them, because again, your body wants to operate at peak efficiency. And if we don't listen to what our body is trying to tell us, then we're not going to make the changes to allow it to do that. So, where was I? Leaky gut. So I'd had these years of chronic stress, and then eventually it got to the point where my body was not digesting food, because that's what happens when you have stress, is like all the other symptoms are secondary. And then of course it creates little pockets in your stomach, and then all the food comes out, and all your antibodies start going, ooh, there's little food particles running around the body, and they start to grab them, and it creates inflammation, and on and on and on. So that amount of stress in the body, your body is overwhelmed, it's overloaded. And strangely, I know it sounds odd, but at that point, because there's so many toxins in our body is just like, okay, we can't sleep. We can't figure this out. Something has to happen, and it doesn't know what to do. So sleep doesn't happen. And that's why a lot of us don't get enough sleep. So I'm going to talk about how to get better sleep in a minute. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about two other things that can impact or impair our ability to get a good night's sleep. Okay. So toxins are one. Caffeine's another. And I'm not saying that we give up our caffeine, but we need to be smart about when we have our caffeine. So if you are an all-day coffee drinker or all-day tea drinker or an all-day soda drinker, the best way to ensure that you get a good night's sleep is to have your last caffeinated drink 8 hours before you want to go to bed. So if you want to go to bed at 10 o'clock, finish your last bit of caffeine at 2 o'clock, because it really does take a while for the caffeine to completely go through your body. Caffeine is a great resource that we have for like giving us a little bit of energy, making our brain start the synapses start firing and helping us function a little bit better. And that's a great thing in the morning, or even like up to, like I said, 8 hours before you're going to go to bed. But then you need your body's circadian rhythms to start working. And in order for your body's circadian rhythms to start working, we have to stop counteracting them with all this caffeine. And that brings me to the blue light. The blue light special. No, blue light as in your TVs, our iPads, our phones. If we are watching TV right before bed, if we are looking at our phones and checking emails right before bed, that also messes with our circadian rhythm. I can't say this today. Circadian rhythms. And if we're messing with our circadian rhythms, then our body is not producing the hormones that help us go to sleep. I have been talking too much. I'm going to have a little drink here. Don't mind me. Okay. So the blue light is actually counteracting our body's normal melatonin, let's go to sleep routine. So if you really want to get a good night's sleep, the best thing to do is to turn everything off an hour before you want to go to sleep. Okay. So like if your bedtime again is 10 o'clock, at 9 o'clock, say, okay, I'm not answering any more emails. I'm not looking at any more screens that have blue light. Kindles are nice because they don't have blue light. And I don't know if you can switch an iPad to not having blue light, but I know for a Kindle for sure, it reads more like a book. But turning off the TV, turning off the iPad, turning off the computer, not looking at your phone anymore. Because let's be real, does somebody really need, unless it's an emergency, like do they really need to hear back from you at 9 o'clock at night? I mean, they can wait till tomorrow morning. I know that we've gotten, so many of us are like, hey, I want to get it done now or I'll forget, or, I just want to get it off my plate. But we need to give ourselves a break. Especially us driven women, we're always like trying to do 10 million things. And we really just need to give ourselves some downtime for a lot of other reasons. And again, we've had the stress conversation. I'm sure we'll have it again. I'm going to focus on the sleep aspect. And for the sleep aspect, we need to have a new bedtime routine. Okay, so here's what I'm going to get into. How do you get a good night's sleep? So we talked about the caffeine, no caffeine after 2 p.m. We talked about turning the blue light off an hour before bedtime. Another good thing to do is you can do like a nighttime meditation. Have some kind of wind down process for your evening. So again, if you are turning off everything at 9, you're wanting to be in bed asleep by 10, give yourself that hour to have a detox bath, have a relaxing bath, for 20 minutes, and just allow your body to start to unwind. You can do some stretches or some light yoga or some good breathing like I was doing earlier with just allowing your body to start to relax and get it ready for the evening. Start to calm down because it's probably been a hectic day and you just want to be able to have that transition from hectic day to relaxing sleeping time. So giving yourself the detox bath, giving yourself the time to stretch or to do some yoga or to do a meditation. I like to have, usually around 8 o'clock, I'll make myself a nice peppermint tea. I don't know what it is about peppermint. And this is, of course, it's a caffeine free. It's just an herbal infusion. But having that peppermint tea, it kind of signals to my body, okay, dinner time's over, no more snacking. It's time to start to relax and unwind and just get yourself ready for the evening. I get cozy. If it's an evening where I can take some time to sit in my favorite chair and read a book, maybe in front of the fireplace. I know it's crazy. It's the little things, right? Just to enjoy that time. Drinking my peppermint tea, reading my book, getting all cozy. It's like a nice routine that helps my body unwind and gets my body ready. It starts releasing the melatonin. It starts doing its process to help me fall asleep. So giving yourself that, I don't want to say permission. Well, giving yourself permission, definitely, but giving yourself that time for your body to unwind is super key to allowing yourself to have a good night's sleep. So if you struggle with getting a good quality night's sleep, try all those things because if you're not doing it, they can't hurt, right? Oh, another thing is Elizabeth Ryder. I love her idea of a sleep. She calls it like a sleepy time tea or something like that. It's like what she does to help you fall asleep better is she recommends doing an herbal tea, like a peppermint tea or any kind of herbal tea, and adding a tablespoon of honey and a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in it. And that's actually really nice. And you may think a tablespoon of honey, that's a lot. Well, if you're going to have a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, you kind of need the honey. But honey also has some really good properties that have been shown to help you unwind as well. And the apple cider vinegar helps cleanse things out a little bit. So that is a really good combination. Okay. So those are my recommendations on how to get a good night's sleep. But making sure, of course, that you give yourself time to sleep. Did I even say that? Goes without saying, give yourself 8.5 hours. Because most of us need at least 8 hours of sleep and it takes you about a half hour to fall asleep. So give yourself at least 8.5 hours. If you need to get up at 6, start going to bed at 9:30. I know it sounds crazy, or just, don't get up till 6:30 and go to bed at 10. But giving yourself that time to sleep. I hope this has been helpful. As always, I look forward to your comments, your questions, and if you have any other topics that you would like me to cover, I am always willing to work on those because, eating is my favorite subject and healthy living also favorite subject. So I hope you all ladies enjoyed this. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day. Take care.